a Midnight Waffles podcast.
This is BattleStations, a podcast about the Columbus Destroyers and the Arena Football League. I'm Frank Walker. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Week 1 is in the books. We are on to Week 2 of the Arena Football League and the second game of the Columbus Destroyers. Game 1 did not go the way of the good guys. The Destroyers fall to the Albany Empire 35-19. I'm not going to recap the game, but I'm going to give you my thoughts on what happened. The first thing that's overall kind of a positive, you held the Albany Empire, who are probably one of the best teams in the league last year, with who might have Tommy Grady, the best quarterback in the league. You held them to 35 points. Now, granted, somebody might argue, well, if the Destroyers had been playing faster ball or scoring more, maybe Albany scores more too. I will take the positive I've got at this point. They had a couple of good stands. They had some nice interceptions. There were some good things going on in that game that I was pretty happy to see. Taking a look at the standings after Week 1. I mean, the three teams that won are at the top: Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Albany in that order, according to the AFL's website. And then the next three after that: Washington, Atlantic City, Columbus, all at 0-1. What this lesson tells us is, in a 6-team league where 4 teams are going to make the playoffs, you just don't want to fall behind too early. And that's both true of in a game as well as when it comes to the standings. You don't want to be the team that, you don't want to draw yourself like an 0-3 or 0-4 hole, 0-4 hole, something where you got to really dig out of it. Because there may just not be that much separation between teams this year. Last year, I think the league ended with I want to say the Albany ended at 9-3, and then there were 2 7-5 teams, and then Washington at last place at 2-10. But with only 4 teams making it, you can't fall that far behind because there just may not be that much opportunity to make it up, especially 6 teams over a 12-game season. All right, thoughts over the game. The worries about the offense were founded. Now, I will say the majority of that wasn't, I wouldn't say because of the skill positions. There were a couple of things that looked rough. One, there just wasn't a lot of time for the quarterback. And part of that was the center quarterback exchanges that led to a couple of fumbles. Part of it was just that there wasn't a lot of time for the quarterback to stand up and throw. Now, granted, in the Arena Football League, you don't have a lot of time anyway. But when you go back and watch that game, you see how much time Tommy Grady has compared to how much time first Danny Southwick and then Grant Russell had, and there was no comparison. So that's something that they've got to be looking into going into Week 2. The snap problem was killing them. It killed drives. I will say that the defense definitely looked like the strength of the team. They held down on at least one 4th down. They got some turnovers, so there's positives to pull out of that first game. And Grant Russell looked really good when he had some time, when he was able to get in there. He threw a touchdown pass on his first play. So that was really good. And the news of the day, anyway, is that he was named the official starter for the Destroyers heading into Week 2 against the Atlantic City Blackjacks. Now, we've got a good show for you today. We talked to newly named quarterback Grant Russell. We also have a discussion with Destroyers head coach Matt Sauk, and a little preview of the Atlantic City game with the Atlantic City radio commentator for them, Coffee Jones, who's also just a general AFL insider on everything else. So we're gonna jump right into those. And welcome to the BattleStations podcast, Columbus Destroyers head coach Matthew Sauk. How are you doing this evening, Coach?
I'm doing well.
All right. Well, I know you're a busy man, so we'll jump right into the meat of the thing. From the perspective of the head coach and from a guy who I'm sure has already broken down the film on what happened, what went wrong on Saturday? What kept the things going from the way you wanted them to go?
Obviously a lot of our issues were, the center quarterback exchange. That's a given. Anyone can see that film and know that that's what happened. We got into the red zone 4 times. We scored once. 3 of them were, 2 of them were fumbles. One of them was a turnover on downs, where, we snap the ball, the wide receiver's offside, that moves us back 10 yards automatically, which kills us. We go from basically third and from the 3-yard line to basically the 13-yard line on a 4th down. So, that was a huge penalty for us. But yeah, I mean, I looked at it, man, they can claim all they want, but at the end of the day, they scored 35, we scored 19, but when I look at it, there's nothing really that, they did defensively to really stop it. When we stopped ourselves, it was because of fumble snaps. And the fact that, we missed an INT off the net that would have basically kept them at 28. So, I thought we played really well on defense. Offensively, we moved the ball every single time. It just seems like, whenever we needed something, we'd fumble snap and have issues there.
All right. So the challenge for a coach is how to take those moments and make them learning moments for the next week of practice. I mean, how do you do that? Do you feel like that's gone effective, at least so far in the first 2 days of the week?
Yeah, we had, Monday was really our kind of film review day off for the guys. The guys came in positive. They knew that that's the whole thing. Like, they're smart enough to understand, like, they see what we did on offense. We moved the ball. We made a change of quarterback. Grant came in and played well. And our biggest thing really was the center QB exchange. And that was something that we were worried about as a staff, just because we moved a guy who had never played center before, but we knew that we had to do it just for the protection aspect of it going forward long term. So that was really something we knew was going to be an issue. We were kind of hoping it wouldn't end up the way it did, but it did. I mean, that's life. The good thing is that first game wasn't the championship for the AFL. I mean, that was literally the first game. So we've got plenty of time to kind of fix these issues. We're going to do it, and the staff knows that, the players know that as well.
All right, and kind of in the preseason there, I don't think it'd be too much of a stretch to say you were talking kind of highly about Grant Russell. So what is it you see in him that says, you know what, we're going to make the move now, we're going to make him the starter, and that's where we're going for this season?
It's just a multitude of things. Literally his first pass, he comes in, throws a perfect ball, perfect timing, touchdown. There's just a couple, I think, throws and scrambles that I saw of him that I was like, this kid's going to be pretty good. He needs reps. So to me, that amounts to it's time for him to start. It was quicker than I wanted to. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. And if he's your guy and you believe in him, then it's my job to make sure that he's getting the reps and doing well. And, he had a great day today at practice. He's starting to get down the play calls. He's making the reads quicker, which is, something that you got to do in the arena league. But I really like the kid. I mean, his demeanor is fantastic. He never shows any sort of, being nervous or too excited. He's just one of those guys that just kind of just plays and, gets excited when we score. But, when something bad happens, he's just kind of level-headed and just allows it to kind of, go on by.
All right, thank you very much for that. And in going against the team, the Blackjacks this week, a team that showed well against Philadelphia, are there any unique challenges you see from them, from watching the film on them, or anything that you think, okay, this is what we got to get prepped for? When I break them down, they played a lot of man. They had one of their DBs get hurt, but they still ended up playing man defensively, and I think that's what they're going to do is they're going to say that you can't beat us because we're going to play man. But again, their offense is our offense. I mean, Hippard's been in my offense. Coach James, I think kind of carried that same offense around as he went to Tampa, and then up to the Blackjacks. So that's the nice thing about our defense is that they've been going against that same offense basically the entire camp and the entire season so far. So this is going to be, to me, it's going to be a good battle. I'm excited about it. At the end of the day, I'm the only, we're the only team in the league with a rookie quarterback playing. It's a process. It's not going to happen right away. We're not just going to magically score, 65 points a game. But hopefully, again, with our defense, again, we gave up 35 last week to one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Actually, I think he was last year, and won the MVP. So, to me, that's a great start. As long as our defense continues that, I think that, with Grant's ability to make plays
and hopefully he grows every week. That again, maybe towards the middle or to the end of the season, we're playing well.
All right, Coach. Well, I know you're busy, so I'll let you get back to it. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
All right, you take care.
And now welcome to the BattleStations podcast. Now Destroyers starting quarterback, Grant Russell. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Wonderful. Glad to be a part of this and get to speak with you about what's going on.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations. I mean, the announcement the team, I guess, made publicly just a little bit ago that you're the new starter for the team. I mean, how'd you find out? What's how do you feel about that being made official there?
It's a huge blessing to me. I've said it many times before, just to be able to play football at the professional level, and especially since it's so close to my home. But I'm just excited to be able to go out and perform and represent the Columbus Destroyers franchise and give everyone all I got.
All right, and I think from the initial reaction I'm seeing, everybody's pretty excited to see that you're kind of moving into that starting role as well. Now Saturday night, playing. It was your first professional game, right? Saturday night.
Yes, sir.
All right, and so walk us through, because it was kind of a cool moment. I mean, you coming in for your first play as a professional quarterback, throwing a touchdown pass. I mean, walk us through that a little bit. What did you see? What was the feelings? That sort of thing.
Basically, Coach gave us a great play call, and I was able to, as soon as I dropped back, I saw Jensen. He ran a really, really nice route, and obviously was pretty open. So all I had to do was really just get in his vicinity, and thankfully the O-line did their job and protected me well enough, and I was able to put the ball in the right spot for Jensen to go make a play. So it was really, really exciting. It was kind of surreal for a second, but we were down at that point in time. So I was just really worried about getting the extra point, holding the extra point, and hopefully we get the ball back. So.
All right, cool. And now Saturday night, your first professional game, first game in the Arena Football League. Did anything surprise you when you were out there on the field? What were was there anything you didn't expect, or what was kind of just your general feeling on the night?
It was a fun night. Obviously, it didn't end up how we wanted it to be. We'll learn from it, and we'll get better, and we'll have a great game this Saturday. But it was just a lot of fun, just to be able to go play ball again, and especially at this high level. Just the whole entire atmosphere of the arena was great. They had a great crowd, and like I said before, it was just a wonderful night. If we could have had the outcome differently, obviously it would have been even better. But
yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you on that one. It was an interesting start for the Destroyers season there. Now, as far as you moving into prepping for next week and everything else, you're in a quarterback room where you're watching film with Danny Southwick, a guy who's played in the Arena League for a long time, and the coach Matt Sauk, a guy who's played arena quarterback and coached some quarterbacks at the heights that they're running in this league. What's it like being in that room? I mean, what kind of insights are you getting, or what's the feeling when you're in there with them?
Well, there's some of the greatest minds in the AFL. So it's huge for me to be able to be around obviously Coach Sauk, but Danny as well. Their experience is second to none. And ever since Danny's came in, he's been by my side helping me out with as much as possible. And Coach Sauk obviously he's believed in me since day one. So I'm just blessed to be able to have two guys like that try to show me the ropes. Really, I don't think I could have been put in a better situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of experience in that room, and what has been that so far been the biggest hurdle going from playing the outdoor game to playing the indoor game?
It's much quicker. It's much quicker, and windows of throw are much smaller too. So that's been the biggest thing, is just kind of getting my timing down and being able to throw the ball to specific spots. You're not really throwing to receivers. You're throwing them open each time. So that's been the biggest adjustment thus far. And obviously just getting used to a smaller field is different. Obviously playing with eight guys instead of 11, but it's a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun since I've been here, so I've been enjoying it.
All right. And when you're watching your own film, when you're, kind of looking at the team and going through practices, what personally do you kind of have as a milestone for what you need to improve most going into next week and going into the rest of the season here?
Securing the quarterback center exchange. Obviously, you can see on Saturday night didn't do my best of jobs doing that. So we've gotten better at that throughout this week, and we're looking to obviously have no mistakes on Saturday afternoon in Atlantic City. But yeah, that's been the biggest thing, that, and then obviously continue to be quicker with my reads and getting the ball out of my hands. Like I said before, our O-line does a great job protecting, and our receivers do a great job of getting open. So really, you just got to be able to drop back and get it to the right guy and let them go make a play.
I kind of had some mental images after watching the game on Saturday night of high school football practice. If you fumble the ball on Friday night, the coach makes you run for a mile with the ball on Saturday. I kind of wondered if he was having you do like 1,000 snaps or anything crazy like that coming into this week's practice.
We've definitely gotten our fair share of snaps throughout this week, so we're going to keep doing that. And like I said, we just got to get it to a point where it's just secondhand. I mean, it's just secondhand nature. We're just going to get the ball and go, and not have any difficulties or problems with that. That's where we're shooting to have this week.
All right, sounds good. Now, you personally, so when you're warming up for a game, when you're getting ready, anymore we know so much of different, guys, they might listen to music to get themselves pumped up. They might do different things. What do you kind of do in that pregame ritual? What gets you ready and gets your head in the game?
I love listening. Big music guy. You could practice. I like to do that just to give myself a little subtle reminders and tips. Once I'm out there, then maybe I could key on it. Obviously better than if I wasn't looking at tips before the game. But yeah, huge on music and just looking at notes from the week of practice.
So if somebody wants to set up a Grant Russell playlist that they want to listen to try and pump themselves up, what 2 or 3 artists are at the top of that list?
I say I'm a big rap guy. So I enjoy Future and G Herbo and Drake. So those guys I listen to a lot. But I mean, it's basically whoever. I like all music, but yeah, huge rap guy for pregame. That's for sure.
All right. Now, one last question, and for those of you who don't know out there, Grant's
yes,
from he's from
absolutely.
Well, you're originally from Newark, Ohio, right? I know you went to high school there. So a lot of people who may be coming west, if they want to come visit a Destroyers game, they may be taking 70 going right by Newark. What, in your mind, is the best place for them to stop and grab a bite to eat in Newark?
Man, you might have just stumped me, to be honest with you. I say, my part of town, we have a Roosters. We go to that a lot. It's real popular. And there's a Red Oak Pub, which is actually across the street from Roosters. So I feel like either way, you can't really go wrong with either one of those two. So yeah, definitely. Anytime anyone checks it out, they got to go head over to one of those two places. That's for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight, Grant, and good luck come Saturday. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BattleStations podcast. The radio commentator for the Atlantic City Blackjacks, Mr. Coffee Jones. How are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. The Arena Football League is back and rolling, so we're in full swing now. Let's get on to week 2, man. I'm excited to get back on the turf.
Yeah, it was a real fun week 1. I do want to ask how you started your weekend. How was the draft?
Oh, man, that was fun. Obviously, a lot of people that know me know I work with Jaws and Ron Jaworski, and we went down there with Bridgestone Tires. They were a great sponsor. They had a nice event for some of their staff, their headquarters in Nashville. We were with Vince Wilfork, D'Angelo Williams, and then Friday night, Taylor Lewan and Marcus Mariota and Jaws emceed the whole event. It was a phenomenal time. I mean, I thought the draft was here. Philly was the best that I had ever seen, but, man, they brought out 200,000 people on Thursday night, filling up Broadway, right in downtown Nashville. I mean, it's just great to see so many people from all teams. You see every different jersey. People are traveling, and you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because, the Super Bowl can get pretty expensive to get tickets. A lot of people travel to those towns and, how hotel prices are. This is just another way for the NFL to bring people together. And it's not even a game being played. That's the funny part. All these different people. But it was a phenomenal time. A lot of good picks. I mean, obviously I'm living here around Philadelphia, so all these Eagle fans are excited for what they got. I am a Raiders fan being from LA, so I'm excited about what Mayock and Gruden have done for my Raiders. But it was a great time. I was happy to get back Friday night and get down to Wells Fargo Center Saturday morning and see AC and the Soul.
Yeah, it was that was a fun game. I enjoyed watching it. The Soul and the Blackjacks there. Let me ask, from your perspective, what surprised you about that game? What did anything happen you weren't expecting, or what was your overall sense of that showdown there in Philly?
Nothing necessarily surprised me. I was surprised at the inefficiency offensively early on for the Philadelphia Soul offense. Now, obviously, they were set up in bad positions, and that was kind of the recipe for success. And I was talking to Randy Hippert earlier just this evening about it, and it was funny because Philadelphia, after winning 2 back-to-back titles, they've started to get that confidence and that mojo that I remember playing against the Arizona Rattlers that they used to have, to where they'd be down and out. And I've watched games and played in games against Arizona where you're up 14 and trying to go up 21, and somebody will make a play, whether it's Arkeith Brown or, Virgil Gray, Cliff Dukes. Somebody will make a play and give Nick Davila and the Latin Laser and that offense another chance. And before you know it, that crowd is back into it, and they make things happen, and they'll get a win. And that's what I felt like watching the game. Like, I was so frustrated that night, just as a fan of good football, that, man, you had a team beaten, and you let them off the hook just early in the game. Obviously, Philadelphia's offense, they got themselves put in a hole. You don't win the coin toss. You go down 7-zip. Then the kickoff is not recovered, so it's 14-zip before Dan Roddenbach even gets on the field. And even then in that first drive, they had to hit a couple 4th down and 3rd down conversions to get to the red zone. Couldn't really punch the ball in with one of the better fullbacks returning in the game with Ferns. I mean, you got to give credit to, Monte Lewis and those guys up front, Dillon, and obviously Larache Jackson. Stout run defense from the Blackjacks. But, when Soul finally got on the board, then they get stopped 4 and out the following drive. It's 20-7. Looked like it's going to be 21-7. And it was looking really bleak until James Romaine stepped up and kind of proved to people why he was DB of the year last year, even though he may consider that a down year for him. He was still at his top level Saturday night.
Yeah, it was. You're right that it did have that feeling of a game that looked like it could get away from him early, but definitely didn't. Now, okay, so going into week 2, we've got Columbus, we've got the Blackjacks. Both teams are 0-1. Both teams looking for that first win. For Columbus fans who are watching this game, what should they be looking for out of Atlantic City? If they didn't get a chance to catch the first game, what names should they know? I mean, is this a team that's going to be passing on them? How's this going to go?
Well, I mean, you got an MVP quarterback in Randy Hippert, and that's where it all starts and ends, in arena football with the quarterback position. And obviously, there's not going to be any difference between Shane Stafford, Ron James, and Randy Hippert. They've got a pedigree of having a successful season statistically and obviously in the playoffs, getting to back-to-back arena balls. Now, with that being said, I was very surprised to see Kendrick Ings not be as statistically valuable to the team as he could be. I've watched Kendrick Ings when he's with Tampa going up against Romaine, the same Philadelphia Soul secondary, and he go for 170 and 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns and 180. Like, he'd be explosive because he's just one of the fastest guys you can find in the league or any league, let that be told. But the thing was, his presence alone and the way that they used him allowed a guy like Lamarck Brown to come up with 3 touchdowns and other receivers to start to feed off of that. And you have to find some ways to help in their secondary because, like I said, Kendrick Ings is one of the fastest guys, if not the fastest in the league. And if you leave him on an island, as much as I love the guys in the secondary for Columbus, I've been a teammate of Larico Stevenson, for many years. A lot of the guys that you guys, KJ Morton, may be back. Pharma Sonny's my favorite middle guy in the league just because of the heart and the talent that he has at that size. He's not afraid of anybody. They're going to have a tough time being able to contain Kendrick Ings, especially if you're going to play man-to-man, which means you want to play a little bit more zone, give him a little bit more cushion, and that's how you open up things offensively.
Yeah, it looks like Atlantic City definitely has a lot of weapons they can go to because, I mean, Kendrick Ings, You're talking about how great he is, and Lamarck Brown had 3 touchdowns on Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that can.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is a team that can get at you multiple ways and seems to be able to score at any given point.
That's true. That is totally true, and I see that, and that's what I was questioning in the offseason. I kind of went through each team and tried to think of what would be my question mark for that team in order for them to be a championship caliber team. And for the Philadelphia Soul, it was going to be their pass rush in the middle. For a team like Albany, it's going to be offensive consistency in the playoffs. And can Quentin Sims fill in for Joe Hills? Washington was going to be Arvell Nelson in their return. Are they complacent being the former champs? Baltimore, are they going to be hungry? And what is Shane Boyd going to do with the talented receivers that he has? For Columbus, obviously going to be starting a rookie quarterback or an unproven, veteran, not MVP caliber quarterback in Southwick. What was that going to be? And for Atlantic City, it was going to be, can somebody be that number 2 guy with Kendrick Ings? And you have to have a 1-2 punch in any successful league, whether it be Money Reynolds and Darius Prince, back to Rod Windsor and Purify. Every team has had a 1-2 combo to be successful. Money Reynolds and Reggie Gray when they won their championship. Last year, Reggie Gray, Douglas McNeil. Excuse me, you got to be explosive with just more than one guy because that's a lot of running they got to do in that high motion going down the field. There's a lot of miles that gets put on a guy's legs in game. He can't do that high motion, go deep every single play. Somebody else is going to have to step up and make a play from a stationary position. It was good to see Lamarck Brown be able to do that.
All right, and let me ask, have you had a chance to go over the tape yet from Columbus's first game? Or
I watched some of the game. Actually, it's funny because as soon as we got done, I'm just a fan of the game. You know me. So if I wasn't in Nashville Friday night, I would have been in Baltimore watching that game and then drove back. It's only about an hour away, hour and a half from where I live at in South Jersey, Philly. And I'm actually going to do that this weekend to go see Baltimore play against Philly and see Gooseby get his revenge against his old team and all that rivalry they've been going on. And then come back Saturday for our game. But I did watch some of the game, especially in the second half when games started to kind of spread out a little bit more. And it bothered me to see a guy like Southwick, and even when Grant Russell came in the game, just on the run so much because of the holes in the protection. I know there's a lot of new guys up front, but it's hard to really judge a quarterback and an offense if you're going to be on the run. If every time you hit your back foot on the 3-step drop, there's a guy coming in your face and you got to scramble and try to make plays. You can't live and sustain like that just with off-scripted plays. That can come into play, but you have to have some type of rhythm and consistency to your offense to be able to sustain, because this is going to be a long season, and this is not a situation like, Washington lucked up into last year to where everybody just happens to make the playoffs. 2 teams are going to be left out, so you're going to have to earn your way in and then continue that hot streak into the playoffs and win 3 games.
all right, so let's say you're the Blackjacks head coach there. How would you game plan for Columbus? What would you be thinking? Oh, this is what I might do. This is what I'll kind of go heavy on to try and beat the Destroyers on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, I guess.
I think I personally what I would do, and it's funny because we're going to have to deal with some injury issues. Obviously, people know Marvin Ross, one of the best DBs, former Rookie of the Year in this league, was banged up and taken out of the game late against Philadelphia. His health is going to be a concern. But I would personally try to play a little bit more zone defense. It's going to they did a great job against Philadelphia, making Dan Rodabaugh hold the ball, check the ball down, and limit his possessions, and make them drive the length of the field. Then when you get in the red zone, you have your opportunities to try to make your stops and play great run defense. The problem comes if a quarterback does get in rhythm, making those dink and dunk throws, you might want to try to change that up, and then Grant Russell or Southwick can get into a rhythm and go over the top. If you play man-to-man, you could put things on your pass rush and try to allow your pass rush to get pressure on the quarterback. But again, you never know. A DB may slip and fall, and something happens, and before you know it, they got a couple quick scores. So anything that happens positively, especially being a road test, a second road test, whether it's Southwick or whether it's Grant Russell coming to Atlantic City, anything positive that they can get going early in the game is going to give the team momentum to start to believe and to rally behind him as a quarterback. So if I'm Atlantic City, you kind of want to take that away up front and be super aggressive in that first quarter. If you get a chance like they did this week, they didn't finish it, get the ball early, try to score first and make a play it's hard for anybody. You looking at a 14-0 deficit when you come out there to take your first snap. Philadelphia was just lucky enough that they had a guy like James Romaine to put the team on his back and make a couple plays for them.
All right. Now, last thing here tonight, just Saturday afternoon, you get to call the first professional football game played in Boardwalk Hall, and I don't know, probably ever. I think all they ever played there before was college and some high school. I mean, are you excited about it? Is there certain challenges kind of being in an older building like that? What are you looking forward to calling a game there?
I'm obviously looking forward to the fans and the crowd. I'm obviously looking forward to, I got a bunch of old teammates, Terrence Taylor and, obviously Barmasoni and seeing Dominic Jones in the front office. So I'm excited just to see those guys and Columbus as well. I mean, both teams, these are expansion teams that weren't around. So these are, you're going to have 48 guys and two 24-man rosters that have jobs, including coaching staff and front office, that didn't exist a year ago. And I'm excited because I've been seeing the process and the mental, acuity that Jaws has put into the growth of this Arena Football League, and it finally started to happen again. We had cut back as far, I call it an analogy of a slingshot. We pulled back as far as we could. Now it's time to let it go and watch how far we can shoot out and to see both of these teams come together and play each other. One of these teams are going to get their first win, so it's going to be history made at some point tonight. It'll be a trivia question, at some point. I'm excited just to see football, period. I know the venue. Actually, the Soul played a game there against the Las Vegas Gladiators. The Las Vegas Outlaws in 2015. The Las Vegas Bowl. It was a one-off game. So it was a good venue then. I was there at the game just hanging out and watching with Jaws. But to be able to call this game is going to be great to see either side. Obviously, I hope it's the Atlantic City side to get the first win in franchise history.
Well, I want to thank you for your time tonight, Mr. Jones, and look forward to the game on Saturday. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
All right, so I do want to thank my guests again for coming on the show tonight. Just a couple other quick things I wanted to touch on. One is the presentation of the games. Now, I watched the Washington-Baltimore game and the Philadelphia-Atlantic City game on the Monumental Sports Network app, which worked really well. I mean, there was a little bit of maybe a little bit of buffering here and there, but not enough that it was a concern for the game. And then I watched the Destroyers game on channel 6.2 in Columbus. It worked really well. I used YouTube TV and it worked really well. I enjoyed the feed. Things went well. It was pretty good quality. The one major concern, and here's the thing, guys. I understand some people, you have a certain expectation when you watch football and you want things to be the highest possible quality on stuff. You can kind of tell from the cameras aren't the highest quality of what's out there. Why? Because you watch other sports like the NBA, the NHL, all those sorts of things, and it's just not there. That being said, I'm not too worried about that. The game was visible. The game looked good. Not everything's going to look as good as Ben's 50-yard dash. So that's just what it's going to be until there's probably another TV partner who can bring in that kind of that capital investment into showing the games that way. The one criticism I have of the TV, of how the games were shown, was in the presentation, mostly with the graphics. I'm not sure if it was just first week, them figuring it out again. I don't know. First of all, I thought the graphics were kind of clunky and a little just odd. You're so used to seeing kind of streamlined, smooth, small graphics that to see something so big and clunky is kind of hard to look at. I wonder, because I've heard before that that's due to the fact that they assume people are watching on things like computer screens and phones and not televisions. But considering that, at least for the Destroyers game, that was that exactly what was on Monumental is what was the feed. It looked too large. The other thing is some of the little details. During the Blackjack Soul game, there was an issue with the down and distance not always showing up, so they ended up just kind of chopping it off. And then during the Destroyer Albany game, at least for the first half, you could not see the time, which is disorienting. Again, people went for decades without seeing that stuff on their TV screens when they watch sports, but fans are now accustomed to a certain thing. And especially if you're talking about stuff like, hey, let's build up these little mini games. Hey, let's have, bet on what happens. I know a lot of it's not betting yet. It's kind of these mini games, but what happened, does somebody score before halftime? Well, if you don't know how much time is left, how's that going to go? hey, is the next play a run or a pass? If you don't know the down and distance, or you don't have it at a quick glance, because if you're playing these games on your phone, you're constantly looking up and down, so keeping perfect track of what's happening on the game is difficult. So, again, these aren't unfixable things. These are very fixable things. These are somewhat minor complaints. I mean, I've watched other games before of relatively, the AFL is still very much a minor league, and I've seen other games in minor leagues that didn't go great always as far as their presentation, but, I mean, there weren't major glitches, things didn't black out, so I will give it a positive there. Considering during one of the Blue Jackets playoff games, on one of the carriers, I want to say it was DirecTV, maybe not, the feed actually went down for a minute or two. That would be nuts during an NHL playoff game. So, I mean, overall, it was pretty good. I would probably give it a B, because there was room for improvement, but it was above average. There weren't issues. I expected there to be a couple of glitches here and there, but for the most part, it went well. So I do appreciate that. Next week's games, folks. The Friday night one is Philadelphia-Baltimore. Saturday afternoon, Columbus goes to Atlantic City at 3:30. And then the Saturday night, Washington and Albany is 7:30. I'm looking forward to them. I'm enjoying them. I am very interested, you heard from our interviews, to see, because here's the thing I believe. If the Destroyers can fix this, both the quarterback, center, just the snap, and Grant Russell gets any time, I think the Destroyers can be competitive in this game. Not going to prognosticate on the games because I'm just not going to do that. But I think it could be a really cool, really competitive game. Thanks very much for listening, guys. Enjoy the games this weekend. Go Destroyers. Thank you for listening to Battle Stations.